interview, I was quite surprised to see you use the word Aborigines talking about African Americans.
You know, I've dealt with that issue. I've already, talked publicly about that.
And my purpose here today is to say that I'm very sorry, and I apologize to anyone whose feelings were hurt by my comment.
I've made very, very clear I don't know where that comment comes from.
Well, from your subconscious.
Well, I guess. I mean, it's not even a normal thing anyone would say, even if you meant something in a negative fashion. I don't know if you would pull that out. But for me personally, you can't just close down camp and stop trying to do the things that you think are right. Just because somebody, you may give them an unfortunate bit of ammunition, you still got to continue to fight on and do what's best for the state in the long run. And frankly, it's going to give me the opportunity to talk about things that I may never been able to talk about before.
You mean the bill?
Well, the bill, or talk about race relations issues, things like that. I mean, I have a freedom that a lot of people don't have because of that.
Because you used the word Aborigine.
Because I've been through the fire, and I can talk to people, I can relate to people, I can let them know what kind of person I am, and we can talk about things that sometimes have been, a little bit taboo. So
because it allowed you to reach audiences you might not otherwise have reached, do you not regret saying it?
I think it gives me some opportunities. I went and spoke to a group in the city of Birmingham. It was a city councilwoman's community meeting, probably 95% African American. And because of, things that I regret, offhand remark I should not have made.
Using the word Aborigines.
Right, offhand remark I should not have made.
Which you don't want to say.
Yeah, I know better. But what it allowed me to do, they actually listened to what I said, probably more than they would have anybody else, because they want to see, this is that guy, this is that person. And we discussed immigration, we discussed policy that deals with the county locally, and there was the ability to actually get across some things that may have surprised them, that they realized, okay, this guy's making some good sense on some issues. I don't know if I would ever have had that door even opened if some of those things had not happened. So it really has worked as a positive in a surprising way to me to allow me to interact with people.
Your other incendiary quote was empty the clip, the gun clip, juxtaposed with immigration, so people think that's what you meant. So how do you explain that?
Well, it definitely had nothing to do with violence against anyone. It was totally taken out of context. The purpose of it was I was telling an audience that we needed to exhaust all efforts to try to deal with a number of issues. But by the time it got through 2 or 3 newspaper filters, it was all over the country.
Which means what? Black folks. You never find a white Aborigine. Aborigines are called natives, or they're always dark-skinned people. You and I are Aborigines, but you don't like to be called an Aborigine.
When I was reading to prepare for this interview...
Which means what? Black folks. You never find a white Aborigine. Rather, Aborigines are called natives, or they're always dark-skinned people. You and I are Aborigines, but you don't like to be called an Aborigine. You want to be called an American.
Tied up in the destiny of America, before the Pilgrim Fathers landed at Plymouth, we were here. Before Jefferson etched across the pages of history the majestic words of the Declaration of Independence, we were here. Before the beautiful words of the Star-Spangled Banner were written, we were here. And for more than 2 centuries, our forebears labored here without wages. They made cotton king. They built the homes of their masters in the midst of the most humiliating and oppressive conditions. And yet out of a bottomless vitality, they continue to grow and develop. And I say that if the inexpressible cruelties of slavery couldn't stop us, the opposition that we now face, including the so-called white backlash, will surely fail. Our destiny is tied up in the destiny of America. Before the Pilgrim Fathers landed at Plymouth, we were here. Before Jefferson etched across the pages of history the majestic words of the Declaration of Independence, we were here. Before the beautiful words of the Star-Spangled Banner were written, we were here. And for more than 2 centuries, our forebears labored here without wages. They made cotton king. They built the homes of their masters in the midst of the most humiliating and oppressive conditions. And yet out of a bottomless vitality, they continue to grow and develop. And I say that if the inexpressible cruelties of slavery couldn't stop us, the opposition that we now face, including the so-called white backlash, will surely fail.
The moral leader of our nation. I have the pleasure to present to you Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr.
I am happy to join with you today in what will go down in history as the greatest demonstration for freedom in the history of our nation. Years ago, a great American in whose symbolic shadow we stand today signed the Emancipation Proclamation. This momentous decree came as a great beacon light of hope to millions of Negro slaves who had been seared in the flames of withering injustice. It came as a joyous daybreak to end the long night of their captivity. But 100 years later, the Negro still is not free. 100 years later.
That's because he emancipated. The legal definition of the word emancipate does not mean to free. It means to switch ownership of property. You went from having a single owner to now the government, the corporation of the state that you reside in, and the corporation called the United States now own you. Hence, this is why they shove a birth certificate in your face, making you state property without your mother and father knowing it, and they slap you with a social security number, so now you are federal property and property of the military.
The life of the Negro is still sadly crippled by the manacles of segregation and the chains of discrimination. 100 years later, the Negro lives on a lonely island of poverty in the midst of a vast ocean of material prosperity. 100 years later, the Negro is still languished in the corners of American society and finds himself in exile in his own land.
How can you be exiled in your own land if you're an African? How can you be a foreigner, but this is your land? You heard him. Before the Star-Spangled Banner, before any of that stuff, the Constitution, we were already here. He knew it. Now you know it.
So Lincoln calls in these free black leaders, ministers, journalists, and there's an AP reporter standing next to him. So this is all planned by Lincoln. And he says to them, if it wasn't for you, we wouldn't have a civil war. So you should leave the country. Go back to your churches and to your town meetings and think about this. I have a plan. I have congressional funding to establish colonies in Central America, in the Dominican Republic, in Haiti. Go where the ban is not upon you, he said. And they left much more politely than I think anybody had a right to expect. And then wrote a polite letter saying, in a very polite way, we're really not from the Dominican Republic or Haiti or Africa. We've been here for, probably 300 years.
Did you hear that? We're not from Haiti. We're not from the Dominican Republic or Africa. Lincoln wanted to send the quote unquote Negroes to these places. He didn't mention Africa, he mentioned Mexico, but you notice he skipped over Mexico. He didn't say, we're not from Mexico, right? He said, we're not from Haiti, Dominican Republic, or Africa. Now, wait a minute. This is supposed to be common knowledge that you're Africans brought over here from Africa, but your rebuttal to the president is that, no, we're not from those places. That we're from here. We've always been from here. The information's always been out there. Yeah, here we go. Let's zoom in so no one thinks we're pulling any fast ones. Okay. Used by people who are not black. No, that's not what we're looking for. Used by people who are not black. That's not what we're looking for. Used by African Americans. That's not what we're looking for. I don't care about it in favorable terms. Used by African Americans again. No, that's not what we're looking for. A person who is, no, that's not what we're looking for. Any person whose behavior is regrettable. No, that's not what we're looking for either. Here we are. Oh, now you want to mess up. Okay, so we'll just slide down that far. Oxford English Dictionary. This is the official one. This isn't the one of the little crappy one they give you online. You got to actually go and search this for the one in Oxford, England. This is their official dictionary, all right? Okay, so a dark-skinned person of any origin in early U.S. used usually with reference to American Indians, usually offensive. And this is why, I forget the name of the movie that Leonardo DiCaprio played in, where he gets attacked by the bear. But if you're watching the movie, they call the natives in the beginning scene when they're being attacked, you listen closely, they call them tree inwards. And I forget the other movie. There was another movie that they just did where they were talking literally to one of the Native Americans out west. It was I think it was from Idaho. I can't think of the name of the movie. I know it's not Wind Talkers, but it was one of the movies they just did. And yeah, they literally call her a mountain inward. And this is where it applies. Any dark-skinned person. And here you go. You can read the name of the title of the rock there. I want to do a slide right down the page right to here. The Rock, formerly known as I don't want to say it out loud, has changed its name to the Great Stone Face, or Stone Face, is located in Virginia. It's said to make the entrance to a Cherokee holy ground. That's not the one I'm looking for. They literally tell you which Cherokees they find it holy.